Yo guys, what is up? Max in our first Descendant video, and today we're going to be doing my updated guide to Freyna. Now, Freyna's in a bit of a weird place in Axion planes, where if you took her prior build into Axion, you'd probably struggled a little bit. A lot of the current Descendants, you can just use the build that you were using in Axion and do decently well. Freyna, you actually have to swap some things around, and so in this video, we're going to be covering specifically how I've updated her build guide for Axion. Hope you guys enjoy the breakdown. Let's get right into it. So the big thing to talk about with Freyna is specifically not using Contagion in Axion. Now, Contagion is a great mod. It's really good at what it's good at, which is like spreading AoE for Freyna. And the big downside of Contagion is that it basically cuts Freyna's damage in half. I made a whole video showcase on this. It was like 22 minutes long about why you shouldn't use Contagion in like 400% dungeons if you're playing solo, because it basically cuts your damage in half on the boss at the end. And whether you're using Contagion or not, you're getting to the boss about the same speed. But just to kind of like showcase this real quick, this is a Contagion build that I've got on right now. I still use Contagion for anything outside of Axion. But for example, if we just look at her one ability, with Contagion, we get the Toxic Puddle, which is damage, and we get the Room Zero Trauma, which is damage. And the Toxic Puddle is doing damage to enemies that touch her puddle, but her Room Zero Trauma is the dot that they like get left with, right? So like her main source of damage here is her Room Zero Trauma, not the projectile hitting enemies, not the puddle. It's mainly the dot that gets added to enemies. That is 188 modifier, right? If we go to our Axion Void Erosion Purge setup, you can see that we've got the projectile, we've got the Toxic Puddle, we've got the Room Zero Trauma, but we also get Panic. Panic is going to give us the same, it ticks at the exact same intervals at 1 second, and it's going to give us an additional dot that's a 174. So it's slightly below Room Zero Trauma, and it lasts for 5 seconds. This entirely goes away, this dot entirely goes away on Contagion. So you just lose all of that damage, which is, you know, basically half of her damage on her dot. And if we look at her other skills, every single other skill loses their additional dot. So Venom Baptism does Venom Trauma, or her 3 does Room Zero Trauma. All of these things have only 1 dot, but if we go and not use Contagion, now we've got Decay on the 3, we've got Despair on the 2, we've got Nightmare on the 4, and all of these are continuous damages that stack, meaning that as long as you're using all of your abilities, you're going to be getting all of these other stacking additional dots on enemies. And so I think the big mistake with Freyna right now is bringing Contagion into Axion. That's not saying you can't kill things with Contagion. It's just testing, I was having significantly faster runs without using Contagion. There's so many enemies, you're not having to worry about spread. Like the enemies are so packed together that like there's no difference in terms of like spreading damage with or without Contagion, but you're just losing half of your damage without it. So then the big question goes to what Transcendent module do we want to use? And there's pretty much 2 good options. There's Toxic Stimulation, which is going to give us a buff for all of our allies and a buff for ourselves, which gives us increased defense. The interesting thing with this is it's going to imbue our allies with Plague Body Armor, that meaning that anytime you're in Axion Planes, if any of your teammates take damage, they can also proc dots on enemies that counts as your damage. It's actually quite nice quality of life. The other is Venom Synthesis. Venom Synthesis changes your 3rd ability to give you a movement speed buff. You keep all of the damage on all of your other abilities, so you're not like losing any damage. However, you lose the ability to target place your 3 for the benefit of being able to move quickly. Now, Venom Synthesis is a solid option for this. However, I really like placing my 3. There's so many different like spawners out in the maps. You can shoot your 3 up at vehicles, and I felt significantly disadvantaged without using Venom Synthesis in Axion Planes because I just lose a targetable skill. And so I am rocking Toxic Stimulation. It's not the greatest mod. I wish there was a better option, to be honest with you, but it's going to allow us to keep all of the damage on all of her abilities without losing anything. We're not losing half of our damage with Contagion. We're not losing our third ability's placement using Venom Synthesis. And, you know, we can still have, like, grapple and move speed cores on our weapons. We're still, like, flying around, and we can always use the bike. So I think that that is the best option for Transcendent modules for specifically Axion / Void Erosion. Now let's go over mods. Let's take this off, because this is the core build. Everything here, I think, is pretty mandatory. We've got power increase because we've got a ton of modifier. Power increase is going to give us non-specific skill power, which is a massive damage increase for Freyna. It's like 18% more damage than using a focus mod here. We do lose a little bit of cooldown, but we get cooldown elsewhere. We're also going to be rocking Decimator. Anything that dies is going to die and proc Decimator for us. This is basically 100% uptime. Freyna loves modifier values. All of her dots are pretty low modifier values. So getting more modifier is a huge damage increase for her. For that, we're going to be also stacking some tech amplification. We've got toxic amplification for our specific skill power. We're going to be using amplification control and skill expansion to hit 300% max expandable range, so all of her abilities can spread and hit everything without Contagion. And then we're rocking double cooldown mods. Now, in this socket, there's a lot of things that you could use. Normally, I'd be using HP, but with the new external components being able to roll HP on them as a core, I only have one of these gold, but I'm at like 11.2k HP, which is pretty great. Obviously, with another HP mod on, we could get more HP, and if you're struggling with survivability, you can absolutely do that. But in this mod slot, if you're having mana issues, which I have not been, you could use like an MP recovery or like an MP collector. We are going to be rocking duration, though. One of the big things with Freyna is her additional dots that she gets that are not her room 0 trauma are only on a 5-second uptime. So with our inversion board, if we cast one of our abilities, now when we go to our cast, you'll see that we are at 7.1 second duration. What this allows is 2 additional ticks of her dot for all of her dots. So as long as we're casting, we're getting that buff, and 2 additional ticks of a dot that is only ticking 5 times is another 40% damage increase. So skill extension, massive quality of life for her. It's going to make her toxic puddles leave them on the ground longer. It's going to give her longer uptime of her like toxic simulation, which is going to be increasing her defense for you and your teammates, but also proccing dots on enemies that are hitting you. But it's also going to give us a 40% damage increase on the dots that we've got on enemies while we're casting. So this is her like main build that I'm rocking. You can use this for Axion and Void Erosion Purge. Obviously, if you're struggling with mana or you're struggling with survivability, you can swap the skill extension for either HP or like MP Collector or MP Recovery. But this is a really, really solid setup. Also, forgot to mention, we're using Power Beyond on basically every build. It's going to give us a massive damage increase, but also a AoE tow, so that enemies get clumped up and get hit by all of our different spreading dots and all of the stacking dots. It's just really, really great on Freyna. The next build is not something I'd like totally recommend running, but it is a very, very cool build, and I spent a bunch of time testing this and working on it. It's a playstyle that I really hope Nexon buffs, because I think it's really cool. But basically, I wanted to get more damage on Freyna, and her technical highest damage mod is Venom Injection. This, when you activate the buff, gives you more modifier, which is great. It recovers your shield, but it also strips enemies' toxic resistance. So you're getting more damage and toxic resistance shred, which is fantastic. However, this costs 15 HP per second, which makes it basically impossible to sustain HP on, even with HP Collector. And then it drains MP per second, which is a really massive burden, and a lot of times you're running out of MP. But it gives you a lot of damage, right? And so I made this experimental build. Basically, the idea was we would use Overwhelming Shield plus Increased Shield so that we could have a full shield build, so we're not having to worry about the HP drain, and then we only need to worry about the MP drain. And the cool thing with Power Beyond is it allows you to inflict tow on enemies, and the Slayer set allows you, whenever you're defeating enemies with tow, to recover MP and specialized resources at a percent chance. And out in Axion, you're basically proccing this all the time. So the idea was to use the Slayer set to give us the MP recovery that we needed for Venom Injection sustain, and then we get a bunch of extra damage. And like normally with this build, like if I wanted to get it to like really function, I'd have to put in a bunch of mods that would allow us to get even more MP recovery or more survivability, and then we would be losing damage. And if we're losing damage, there's not really any point in running Venom Injection, because the whole point is to have like a super high damage build. But this setup just like deletes things with Venom Injection plus Toxic Amp, power increase, tech amplification, and Decimator with focus on tech. You're hitting very hard. The issue with this is unless you have enemies constantly in front of you, you will run out of MP. So that's a bit of an issue. And because you're running Slayer, you have not a lot of HP, so Overwhelming Shield isn't doing too much. It nets you out about like 7k shield. So not a setup that I'm personally like saying, hey, run this. But I do think it's a really cool playstyle, and I think it's kind of interesting rocking Power Beyond to kind of supplement the amount of mana drain from Venom Injection with Slayer. Cool build. Not really recommended for running, though. For her normal mobbing build, this is like anything outside of Axion. So if you ever need to do like Sigma Sector or anything like that, I do still rock Contagion for that, because you don't really need the extra damage. Contagion gives you nice quality of life. Throw in a skill extension for more damage, and then we're rocking Power Beyond, pretty much the same build. And lastly, her Giga Bossing build. This is grabbing as much damage as possible with enough survivability that you don't get absolutely deleted during a boss fight. But Venom Injection is going to give you that Toxic Shred on enemies, plus the max skill modifier. This specific setup is meant to be used to kill something with your 4th ability, and then your 4th ability is going to go on a really long cooldown, and then you can just die and then use it again. This isn't like fully set up for damage. If you wanted to like maximize it even more, you could throw Maximize Skill and Maximize Power on to replace Power Increase and Tech Specialist. The reason I'm not using these mods is because they ruin the entire setup. If you do have to like use your other abilities, you're still able to on this build. This is not a like Stormhanger Freyna build. Right now, Freyna is killing Stormhanger in about double the amount of time that Jaber is doing it. So I honestly just didn't even bother with Freyna. She's just not in a super great spot right now for Stormhanger. There are kills with her that I think are just running like Maximize Skill, Maximize Power, and resetting. And then, I mean, even with Maximize Skill, Maximize Power, and 3 of her 4 abilities, it's still not enough damage to bring down Stormhanger. So yeah, Freyna's not in a super great spot for bossing on that specific thing, but like anything besides Stormhanger, this will take down in about 1 use of your 4th ability. For weapons, cores, and components for Freyna, I mainly rock the Secret Garden. Secret Garden gives her a massive damage buff whenever using tech abilities. I rock that with 2 sprint speed cores and grappling hook recharge time. On the Secret Garden, the big important modules that you need to use are Expand Weapon Charge, Compulsive Magazine, Sharp Precision Shot, and Fire Rate Up. Fire Rate Up, Expand Weapon Charge, all these mods, they actually impact her 4th ability. So her 4th will fire faster with these mods on, and you'll get more bullets in the mag in her 4th. So they're really important. One thing to note is you do want to create some separation for yourself when using Freyna's 4 in Axion. It's very easy to get swarmed by enemies, and you can grappling hook up into the air and then shoot her 4 down. You can get interrupted while you're using her 4, and Sharp Precision Shot, if you do get interrupted, will get reset. So if you're having issues with that, you can take this off. If you're not getting like the full trigger pull off of this, you know, you are losing damage because it's less fire rate, but it is a massive damage increase if you can mag dump her 4 with this, so that you can get all of the bullets out in the time that you are allowed. So yeah, Sharp Precision Shot, very good, but you do kind of want to make sure that you have a bit of distance if you're going to be using this, or just like grappling hook into the air as you're activating your 4, so you can shoot down on enemies. The Malevolent Hand Cannon, fantastic on Freyna, not because she has any inherent synergies with it, but her dots hit a bunch of things and do damage. The Malevolent hits a bunch of things and does damage. And for Void Erosion Purge, it's really important to supplement her dot damage, which is a bit slower, with the Malevolent that's also hitting enemies. And if you're using both, because like once you have your dots on the enemies, there's nothing really more you can do. You kind of just have to wait for them to die. I rock the Malevolent to just shoot at those enemies in Void Erosion Purge to get her times down. On this, well, for the video, I was using my Nell setup, but I'd probably still rock this on her. Basically, the big difference between this and my old build is I added weak point sight and have aiming, simply for the fact that a lot of the times when you're shooting this, you're shooting at elites, and so these are going to buff up your damage for elites if you're hitting those weak points to melt them a bit faster. It gives her a bit more single target damage specifically with the Malevolent, and then chill, firearm chill, and double fire rate. On the Malevolent, I'm using chill, weak point damage, bonus firearm attack versus darkness, and more firearm attack. For her reactors and external components, I personally have a double toxic and tech skill power boost ratio. I would recommend, I was farming for one, I couldn't get lucky enough, but I would actually recommend specifically for her to go for a tech cooldown reactor, simply for the fact that her 4 is a lot of damage, and you could have that up a little bit more, and that'd probably be better than the the toxic bonus. But I personally have been rocking a double damage reactor without any cooldown for her, with a tac rifle and hand cannon mounting, so I can swap between my Secret Garden and Malevolent. And then the components, we're using Plague Set, roll max HP and defense on these. Very, very important to get max MP and MP recovery in combat on your sensor. This will make a world of difference in terms of just like your ability to spam your abilities. Also look for MP recovery modifier on the memory, and MP recovery out of combat on your power. For the Inversion Reinforcement, we're rocking Arche Circulation Tactic for more cooldown. This can be really, really nice for her 4th ability. We're rocking Probabilistic Recovery System for more MP and HP. And then we're also rocking Deploy Resonance Device. This will give you the little bit of extra duration so that you get that full double tick of your dots for that 40% damage increase. For the Arche Tuning board, this is what we're rocking. This is going to give us more HP, more MP recovery, reduced skill cost, as well as her max expandable range to get to 300% range, more skill power, more cooldown, and toxic cohesion for the stacking toxic skill power when you're mobbing. Now, I did a lot of testing, trying to mess around to see if we could squeeze out more damage by going a double mutant cell build where we were using defense neutralization and toxic cohesion. I don't have it in this mutant cell, but it like doesn't proc in the training room if you're not killing things anyways. But using defense neutralization plus toxic cohesion and having that big benefit of the additional toxic strip while still trying to keep some quality of life with some range and skill cost, I tested that, and I was seeing within about a % damage difference between using defense neutralization and having that damage increase, and also getting all of the damage increases of like this additional skill power and all of this additional skill power. However, we were losing, for example, max life if we did that, so we were squishier, and we were losing cooldown so we could use our abilities less. And so I just didn't think it was worth for the like basically within a 1% damage increase. So if you wanted to rock defense neutralization, you can, but you're getting pretty similar damage out if you spec into all of the like flat damage rolls. So that is what we're rocking for her build. And then for bossing specifically, the only thing that we change is we don't need range. We could pick up like additional skill attack when attacking a Colossus and pick up all of these little damage increases around here. Guys, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. I'll mouse through these tabs one more time. So that's the Axion Void Erosion Purge build, Giga Bossing, normal mobbing, and experimental. Let me know what Descendant you guys want to see next. I'll catch you all in the next one, guys. Take care. Peace.